So, if you want to see some matchups against some interesting decks or decks that you don't see very often, this is going to be perfect for you. So, on the draw, we're going to be playing against High Tide, which I did not know at the time. First time playing against this person, and it's actually the first time playing against High Tide. I understand the idea of the deck. They want to ramp up with blue mana. Usually, draw a ton of cards, or use like that card where they skip their next turn, draw 4, use reset to untap their islands, gain a ton more, blue from that, and cast like Brain Freeze or whatever it's going to be. I have an idea of how it works, but in terms of the cards in it, I'm not too sure all about. So keep that in mind when it comes to the plays. This game is certainly not going to be like many of my others where I actually know what the person is up, where I'm up against. And also, before I continue, I did decide to mulligan that in case you didn't get to see it. I did have a Batterskull in the hand, plus it was really slow. It was like land, I think Swords, Snapcaster, and Narset. I had nothing going on in the beginning of the game, and that pretty much plays against how I like to play. And plus I was on the draw, that's why I decided to mulligan that. If I was on the play, I wouldn't. Now, this is a much better hand, but now we have a very difficult decision. Obviously, since I know now it's against High Tide, this would be the easy card to throw away. However, we didn't know that at the time. So, I forgot exactly what it was, but first turn I can ponder, or I can keep up Spears. That's a new way to say it. Spell Pierce, Spell Snare. Then we have Swords, Stone, and Force for more protection. There's just so much to talk about this hand, so I'm not gonna take too much longer. Let's just figure out what we got rid of. And it was a Spell Pierce. Okay, that's fine. So I figured I have something to obviously cast there. At first, I thought I might have been against Stoneblade, so I wanted to keep up Spell Snare. Could have been Miracles, so turn 2 can be a Stoneforge, or it can be a, counterbalance, so that's why I didn't do anything there. Delta's a great draw. This is what I like talking about. A lot of times I will ponder, making it look like I don't have any lands, even though I do, but this allows you to get maximum value out of your ponders, assuming they're not going to daze it, which I was on the assumption they did not have. This is pretty solid because we do need lands. So here it's going to be Island, Plains, Island. Or it could be the other way around. Yeah. I did want to get Island because now I can actually Spell Snare something without needing to play this, and I can still get my Plains next turn. So next turn I can play Stoneforge and keep Spell Snare up. Sure. Alright, cool. So, let's play our Plains. Let's play Stoneforge. At this point, I don't remember if I was like, this must be High Tide, because usually Island is probably going to be High Tide, at this point, unless they were just flooding. So it was hard to say what they were. It could have been, this still could have been Stoneblade or, Miracles, but at this point, I kind of got the idea. Yeah, that's fine. So here's going to be Delta. We're not going to do anything. We're going to play Batterskull. Or plan to play Batterskull. Alright, so I was like, maybe it's Sneak and Show. They're just not drawing any red. I did decide to Spell Snare this. However, if I do, that leaves nothing for Force of Will, to pitch to, which kind of sucks. Okay, so I'm like, Sneak and Show doesn't play that. So I guess High Tide. I don't know if I realized it at the time, but sure. So they're returning that to their hand, I believe, drawing a card, something like that. Yeah. Okay. This deck has a ton of 2-drops, so Spell Snare is definitely pretty much all the counter magic you can get is good against this. That's what I figured out so far. Alright, so I might have played Volk here. Now there's the opportunity or chance or idea of holding up Stoneforge where I can bring in Jitte next turn. I don't remember exactly what I did. I'm not going to talk about a lot of the plays too much. Okay, so I did have that ability to do that. Sure. So now at the end of the turn, I can Brainstorm away Jitte if I want. I can Brainstorm away this. Impulse, as they brought it back to the hand. Sure. Alright, cool. So here I don't want Jitte, and I shouldn't want Swords. If I don't put Swords back, I didn't realize that I was playing against a deck that didn't need it. So, yeah, Swords. And no, I did not put Jitte back. Okay, apparently I want to put Jitte into play, which is fine, because the other one was a land, so I technically didn't really need that all that much either. Sure. Now, I could play Jace, but then, you know, I pretty much, what's the word? I have to draw a blue card, and I like keeping my mana open in case I need to. I know they play Flusterstorm. So next turn, I would attack them for 9. Okay, so this is the part where it gets interesting. I know they usually have a ton of these. In a spot like this where they still have 6 cards and a ton of mana, I don't like Force of Willingness. Like I said, I haven't played against this deck before, but once they get all their mana, it's like, okay, they have their mana. Let's see, untap all lands you control. Well, I figured, what's the point of countering this? If they untap, they still have 8 there, which, you know, so that was my thought process. Like I said, let's just see what happens. Draw 4 cards, you skip your next turn. Like I said, I'm not going to comment too much on it, sure. That doesn't need to be forced. Sure. $22. 20. Let's see. Now, this was, let's see, tap all, untap permanents of the chosen type, or untap all. Actually, I'm so not used to playing against this that I thought they were actually going to just untap all their lands, so I did nothing. And they ended up, like, I'm not forcing that either, and so they did land, and they tapped that. Is that for opponent or them? Tap all of the chosen type of that player controls. Okay, so I don't know if they targeted me. Like I said, this is the first time I've actually seen this card. So if I had realized that, I would have certainly tapped my lands. That I want to force. Okay, well, they have another. That's cool. Now they go nuts with Brain Freeze. Okay, and now they have that, so they can go nuts with that. And I made sure I actually looked through and realized that that would be enough. So if there was 3, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 times 3, that's 3. Yeah, it's 45, so that would have decked me and I would have lost. Either way, now I know what they're up against. It gives me a slightly better advantage. Actually, I do have a pretty good advantage in this just because of the red blasts. But let's move to game number 2 and we will check out the sideboarding for this matchup. All right, so now that we have a new copy of the deck, considering it is combo, Flusterstorm is probably amazing, or not probably, it is. They have a ton of 2-drops. These are also amazing, and we don't want any type of those. Containment Priest isn't the worst. Now that I think about it, this comes in a lot of combo matches where you can just play it with haste and start beating them down. If I had to play this game again, I definitely would have brought this in, although I didn't. Clique's great, and we want extra force protection. So technically, Priest would have been the 8th one. I just, now realizing it, definitely bring that in. So taking out a Plains because I have my Volk, taking out Judgment. Back to basics, this is like the worst matchup ever for it. Pretty much hits nothing. And then we have 2 more. Oh, forgot about that. So we want 4 swords. These are the worst. Okay, so now the question is, what do we want here? Sort by converted mana cost. We can keep in a Plains, I guess. Everything else here looks good. Narset's great. They draw a lot. Don't want this. Don't want that. Don't want Containment Priest, Hydroblast. So let's see, with 59 cards, I mean, the last one would have to be definitely Containment Priest, although I didn't bring it in. What did I bring in instead? I'm just trying to think. Those are good, those are good. That's 60. And is there anything that's bad here? Snare's good, Pierce is good, Fluster's good, Stoneforge is good. This is just kind of like there. But everything else actually looks really good. So that's probably how I do my sideboarding for this. Take out pretty much the majority of the white cards except for Stoneforge, and that's about it. All right, so let's go to game number 2. It's amazing the difference that it makes when you actually know how to play against the deck. Like I said, there's not as much to talk about. If I knew the decks better, it would be easier to talk about. But let's see, I am on the play. I do like this hand because it has a lot of counter magic, but it doesn't have any threats, which isn't the coolest, so they can kind of do whatever they want. But I ended up keeping it, specifically being on. If I was in the draw, I probably would have thought a little harder about possibly throwing it back, but kept it. Yeah, it's a good draw. So I want to play an island, then I'm going to do Ponder. Ooh, This is a good hand, or a good solid card. So what I want to do here is Arid Mesa in the bottom. I don't need any lands. And then what I want to do is Flusterstorm is awesome, and I do need a threat, so it's challenging here. Based upon the cards that I keep, I'm not going to want to either Spell Pierce or Spell Snare or anything, because then I'll lose one of these. So I believe it was Arid Mesa, Stoneforge, and Flusterstorm. And I want to make sure, you know, unfortunately, if they play something, it's not like they're going to go off here and win, but there's nothing I'm going to want to counter because I will lose my Stoneforge, and I need to start applying some pressure. All right, so let's play this. Let's get a Tundra. Let's play Stoneforge. Ironically enough, if you've seen a lot of my videos, I usually play Stoneforge turn 3 anyway. Okay. Some tempo. This card's actually pretty solid in this. Here I actually want to snare this. Actually, let me think about this. Here I actually pierce this because as the game goes on, this is going to be getting incredibly worse, while this card is just always a hard counter. So let's fetch for Volk. Here I believe I pierce this. Yes. I didn't want them to gain that tempo advantage. Allen, sure. I'd have a lot of fun playing this deck just because, like, the majority of it is playing instants. Anyways, player land. And let's, we're going to bring in Batterskull, or plan to. I believe I Spell Snared this. So what I could have done is obviously cast a Flusterstorm, but I didn't want to do that. I mean, this is already getting countered, so I let that go. This is still getting countered. Let's bring in Batterskull. Let's keep up Volcanic in case we want to, you know, bluff that. Okay, that's not a bad draw. So it's going to be a 4-turn clock if I attack with both. Okay. Don't want to use Brainstorm yet. Most likely end of turn. Just because I want to use my mana for possibly playing Jace. But let's see what I did. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what I did here, I believe, is I want pretty much all of these. Actually, I probably could have thrown Jace back, but having this is awesome with this. And then obviously blue cards are great. So regardless of what I did, let's see. I think it was Flooded Strand and then Snapcaster. Yeah. I'm not worried about playing a land there. I'm more interested in just keeping my blue cards. I'll play a land next turn. And this was interesting. Like, I didn't realize they were going to be playing this. If that was the case, I guess it didn't matter if I attack with Stoneforge. They're still going to do that because I don't have 5 mana, so I can't bring it back to my hand and then bring it in, so that's fine. End of turn, I can return it to my hand. Okay, let's return it to my hand. Let's keep the Volk open again. We're always threatening Red Blast. Play that, and end the turn, I'm going to bring in Batterskull again. Sure. Sure. I'm like, huh, you're warming up my Flusterstorm. So right now I actually have Flusterstorm and then Snapcaster Fluster, which is really nice. Okay. That's a good draw. So beginning combat. Do I want to attack here? Because if I attack, well, let's say if I don't attack, it's going to be 4, 8, 12. It's going to be a 4-turn clock. And if I do attack, that would be 5, 10, 3-turn clock. But if they have another one of those snaps, that's going to be annoying because... but I went with attacking with both, I believe. Okay, and they did have another one, ironically enough. Now we have a bunch of options. Cunning Wish. So this, I believe, I Force of Willed pitching Jace, because after that, let's see. So there's been 2. Actually could have Flusterstormed this, but I know they can Fluster back. I'm not familiar with that interaction. My goodness. Like, if I Fluster and then they Fluster, they'd have to get, obviously, their Flusters right, and then I don't know. That's just insane. So I decided to pitch Jace and just hard counter this. Sure. I let that resolve. Now I flustered this. Sure. And they have 1 card in their hand. And they do nothing, so here I'm going to click, get an island. And this was a very interesting spot. Whew. I wasn't expecting that. Draw 4 cards and you skip your next turn. So, I mean, what 4 cards can they get where they're going to win? Like, see, this is where me not knowing the deck well enough. I believe I let this go because, you know, 4 cards plus the one they have, they're going to have to get some type of payoff card, which maybe I could just force that. And plus I have Clique here where I can actually look at their hand. Okay, so here I actually got rid of Cunning Wish. I'm like, oh, this is cool. There's that. There's Opt. Like, this is just going to, you know, untap lands. This is just going to be like them drawing a card. I felt this is going to be the biggest threat, so I got rid of Cunning Wish. Oh, there we go. So this is their hand, plus they have 1 unknown. Okay, so this was a very interesting spot. If I attack with this, that brings them to 9. Then next turn I can bring this in, which would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that means they would be at 1 and 2 turns. So that's a 3-turn clock. However, if I equip this to this, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a 2-turn clock, and I still have Force of Will pitching True-Name backup. Like I said, this is a spot where not having experience against this deck doesn't help very much. I actually chose to go with equipping Batterskull. Probably not the best idea against combo. Actually, I'll tell you what, it's definitely not a good idea. Okay, so now we know what they have in their hand. So there was High Tide. Now we have perfect information, even if that helps. Sure, there's that. There's that. And now we have, okay, so that, let's see. The thing is with this card, copy target. Let's see. So if I Force of Will this, they can copy that, then return it to their hand, I believe. I think that's how that card works. Not being familiar with these cards, so I believe I chose to let that go. Okay, so they got that. Okay, they got to pay for it. 1 sec. Okay, and ironically enough, okay, so here's where I really screwed it up, I think. So what I did was decide to Force of Will this, which doesn't do a whole lot, because if I'm correct, if I Force of Will this, well, let's see, all they have is Reset in their hand. Okay, so if I Force of Will this, then I believe this just like fizzles or whatever, since there's no target on this. Am I correct with that? Like I said, first time playing against decks. I believe that's how it should work, but I didn't realize that at the time, so I actually Force of Will pitching True Name, countering this, ironically enough. I thought about that after. I'm like, wait a minute, did I screw that up? I think I did screw that up. Anyway, so now they're going to draw 7. They're going to do a bunch of crazy stuff. Okay, let's have them do this. Sure. And this is the time, like I said, I don't like conceding. It's just not a good idea. Like, make them do what their deck is supposed to do. Okay, tap my creatures. And oh my goodness, I get an untap phase? Are you serious? I looked in the chat and they go, oh man, I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know if they are. Are you? I don't know how your deck works. Anyway, I cast Ponder here. they still have a hell of a hand. So anyway, I'm playing it out like I always do. So here I want Brainstorm, Counterspell, and Pyroblast because I can Pyroblast and then Snapcaster. What's it called? Where is it? Flusterstorm? Where are you? Is there a Fluster? Yes. So Brainstorm, Counterspell, Pyroblast. Let's attack with both. Let's see. So I figured they were going to tap my creatures, and that's no bueno. Or they're going to tap my land. They probably wouldn't tap my land, so I actually chose to Pyro this. And now I'm playing Snapcaster, and they actually conceded to my Snapcaster. Ironically enough, they didn't even want to make me have it. Imagine if I just had nothing in my hand and I just started tapping land. Oh my goodness. They must have been pissed off from reversing, from messing up that other game, but... this is why you don't concede early. Even with Storm, there's so many times where they'll get like a Pass in Flames or like Ad Nauseam and just quit. It's like they can kill themselves to Ad Nauseam. You do realize that. But anyway, that game was a gift. And I believe I messed up big time. Like I said, it's going to happen when I didn't counter that. Because if I counter this card, or excuse me, if I countered that other card they got where they draw cards, then there would be no legal targets for this, I believe. But either way, we both... didn't play optimally there. Let's go to game number 3 either way. Whew. So now that I get a breath of fresh air. All right. I am on the draw. And this kind of sucks, but these cards don't. All right, so this doesn't suck, this doesn't suck. All of this doesn't suck except for Batterskull, but if I draw any fetch land, this is going to turn these on. Any blue card that can help with that. So I kept this hand. I didn't want to throw it back. I think they threw one back. Mulligan to 6. Yep. Ooh, Spell Pierce is really good. That's like a awesome draw. We'll take it. Red, white, and blue. Red, white, blue. Anyway. Nothing? Nada? Ooh, another great draw, because now we can keep up Pyroblast. Do nothing, okay? If you've seen many times, now that I kind of realize what they're up to, playing Stoneforge here is not a good idea, then all of these cards are off. All these 3 here. For me, this was an extremely easy Spell Pierce. This plus this plus this is going to allow them to do really big things. Based upon my hand, this was like a no-brainer Spell Pierce. Because think about it, they're on the play, they mulligan to 6, they're going to allow them to shuffle away cards they don't want, they're going to see 3 cards, they have a shuffle effect, very easy Spell Pierce. Sure, you got it. What do you got here? Okay, and so here, they are actually tapped out, and I believe they don't play Force of Will, so I'm going to fetch Strand for a Volk. And here I actually want to cast Red Elemental Blast. This is much better with Flusterstorm, so I want to keep that in mind. This is the weaker Red Blast, just slightly, because you can't target everything. So I want to cast Red Elemental Blast here instead of Pyroblast. In case that interaction comes up where you need to, like, you know, further up your storm count for Flusterstorm, this can just target like a land if you want. Good draw. Here what I want to do is probably play a Plains, tap Plains Island, play Stoneforge, and now I have Pyroblast backup. I think I said that before, but the majority of my games, I'm usually playing Stoneforge. Not always, but a very high percentage amount of time I'm playing it actual turn 3 just because I love having backup for it, whether it is Spell Pierce or Spell Snare. Plus, now in this scenario, I could play Spell Pierce, I could play Spell Snare, I could play Red Blast, I could play Brainstorm. It just makes it much more difficult for the opponent to do what they want to do. Okay, their turn. Nothing going on. So they are stuck on land. Let's play Delta. Let's pass. Nothing going on. Here I actually want to Brainstorm first. I don't care about the Jitte, which means that's going to be going back. And out of 3 cards, there's going to be one I'm going to want to put back. And even if I like them all, I don't have to shuffle. There's no rule about that. So let's actually Brainstorm first. And this is awesome. So it's going to be Jitte. And then probably Brainstorm on top. But I don't want to shuffle because Force of Will and Brainstorm go together. like it really doesn't matter what the other card is as long as I'm going to be, what's it called? There I have to play that simply because I don't want to fetch. Excuse me, there I have to tap that. Gorgeous. So here, now what I want to do is I want to fetch this for an island, so I will have blue, blue, white, and then this can get Tundra later, so I don't need white, white in this matchup anyway, so just keeping that in mind. But I wanted to attack first, and I did not attack with Stoneforge in case they thought about bouncing it. It was kind of more of, well, they have that up. That means there was more chance they weren't going to bounce that back with Snap. So here, now Polluted Delta. Now I'm kind of getting the hang of it playing against this deck. And now Narset is a powerhouse against this. My goodness, as you can tell. And they did not like that. So I'm going to Pyroblast that and say no. And they actually conceded there, ironically enough, because that card was going to shut them down. They mulliganed. They were trying to find lands. They finally did. It seemed like they didn't have a whole lot going on. Now this is going to shut off their Brainstorms and whatever the cards they have when it comes to drawing 3. But that's the end of that game. And wow, what a very interesting game. Like I said, it's very weird when you play against a deck for the first time. I believe I made a very bad misplay, and then they made an even worse misplay, which allowed it to a game 3 where I capitalized on it, had a nice little hand, drew some nice cards thanks to Brainstorm, countered some key spells in terms of that Brainstorm when they had the fetch open. I feel like that was a very big one. And of course, having double Red Blast, Spell Pierce, Stoneforge, and then this backup was just the icing on the cake, aside from going to have Narset being non-countered or put into play. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. That was the first game ever against High Tide. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you soon.